Hi friends, welcome back to my channel, 𝐬𝐭𝐚𝐲. Before this video goes underway, let me apologize for not uploading the past 2 weeks. The first week I was just making some decisions about where the channel was going, and I was working on making an update video, which you can watch. I'll have the comment section, I'll have a link below. But then I got sick. I felt a little under the weather, went to the doctor and found out I had a upper respiratory viral infection. So it was, here, up in here, so it was just all coming down. So I had to take some antibiotics, get a lot of bed rest, and just try to get better. I'm feeling a lot better now. I still have a cough, but it's nothing too serious. My throat feels better, my chest feels better. I'm breathing a lot more easier. It's overall, I feel better. So today's video though, I thought it would be fun to do a story time. So I've talked in the past about having supernatural experiences, and I don't really elaborate on them much because I don't want to seem like I'm crazy or something, I guess. So my family is a family that has history with the supernatural and with the macabre. My family dates back to the Salem witch trials. We were related to those who were burned at the stake, and our family name goes all the way back then. So, and then from there we kept going further and further, and as the years progressed, we kept making connections with the spirit realm and with things that weren't necessarily normal, I guess. It's hard to explain, but I mean, there's just so much history to our family. Anyway, so for years, my family has had such a strong connection with the paranormal. Most recently, though, with my mother and my grandmother. So when I was about 14, this experience happened, which I'm going to tell you about, and it freaked me out, and it still haunts me to this day. It's one of the main topics of therapy when I go to therapy. It's something that still it messes me up. It's something that you want to just be a figment of your imagination, but you know it's real, and you know you can't just wish it away. You know it happened, and when it's so real and it's right in front of you, it's hard to just get rid of out of your mind. So, yeah, I'm going to tell you the story of what happened. So, the story you're about to hear is completely true. I have changed the names of people and places. I think I only actually named one person in the story anyway. And I'll be reading from a screen so that the story is more cohesive. I've written it out so that I don't forget anything and don't leave out any of my thoughts, because this story is one that I haven't forgot anything from it, because it just sticks with you. So, now I do want to warn you guys that it does have some graphic content, and that if you're underage, parental guidance is advised, so you've been warned. Let's get on with the story. It was the summer of 13. The humid air that wafted through my open bedroom windows felt sticky against my freshly showered skin. My still damp hair clung to the back of my neck as I clicked on the box fan that fit in the window closest to my bed. I sighed as the fan breathed to life, doing its best to cool off the room that had easily climbed to 80 degrees. It was nights like these, the ones when a sudden heat wave would erupt, that I would curse my parents for purchasing the 90-year-old house. Though fairly inexpensive for the real estate, the two-story was without central air or heat. Extreme temperatures like those of the summer relied on air conditioners, of which my family only owned one. It was stationed in the living room, where we would gather most hours of the day. At night, we were each given a box fan and told to open our windows. Though none of us ever died from heat stroke, this did lead to many sleepless nights. In fact, For many months after the initial incident, I would find myself condemning the heat for my nightmares. The room's temperature eventually dropped to a comfortable enough temperature for me to climb beneath my sheets. The thin fabric was chilly, which is a sensation that baffled me then and still continues to baffle me today. In the uncomfortable warmth of the air, I was able to find solace in the smooth bedding. I had expected walking into my bedroom that night hours of tossing and turning, a cementing of under-eye bags. Instead, I drifted. In minutes, I was lulled off into slumber's sweet grasp. That was when it came. I'd like to chalk up the entire ordeal to too much sugar or not enough iron, some kind of nonsense that's always used in the films. But I can't. That would be irresponsible both as a storyteller and as someone sharing their experiences with the supernatural. No, I know what entered my dreams that summer night of 13 was something possessive, something evil and inhibiting. What entered into my dream and found shelter for 4 long months was a demon. That night's dream is one I can recall with vivid color. It began in a child's bedroom, walls painted the lightest shade of blue with pale brown baseball diamonds centered on each. The floor was scattered with popular Disney licensed toys and piles of clothes that were pulled from their drawers in search of one particular shirt. A television flashed from the corner dresser, but no sound came from the speakers. I recognized the room as the one of the little boy I had babysat for nearly 2 years. Once I did, it seemed as if all dream logic crumbled. As if I had blinked, the room completely changed. It was still the little boy's room, but it felt different. The walls were a darker shade, and seemed to grow even more so as the dream continued. The toys were no longer scattered, but piled neatly in the farthest corner from the bedroom door. And on top of the dresser where the television should have been playing reruns of nonsensical cartoons was the little boy himself, sitting with his legs crossed and hands folded in his lap. Had the dream turned out only to be a dream, I would have admitted it was strange in itself. I had never dreamed of the little boy before, nor did I think I ever would. I'd like to think perhaps I would have thought the dream a sign that I needed to babysit him more, or that I was going to be fired soon. Instead, the dream was something entirely worse. My dream self made to walk towards the little boy who sat atop the dresser and not looking up from where his hands twiddled in his lap. When I reached him, I could immediately tell something was off. The bleached blonde hair that usually shaped the smooth, angular face of the boy was graying and almost wilting like a flower stem. The boy's jaw and cheekbones weren't sharpened, but sunken in. It appeared to me that the little boy I'd babysat for 2 years was having a life drained from him. I watched in terror as this happened, with his hair completely gone and his face left to bone. The boy's eyes simply dissolved away and his teeth fell to dust. With his body left to that of a decayed corpse, I figured the nightmare was finally over. I was wrong. Only moments after finishing decaying, the little boy's body began to change again. His rotting skin bubbled and boned, face cracked like a spike had been driven in. His body began to thin and fill itself out, legs straightening. His hands were different. While one remained gnarled and disgusting, the other developed into a hook-like feature. I could not speak or scream, but only stumble back in shock as I watched the little boy's once innocent face be transformed into a ghastly, soulless black form. It had no eyes or nose and a mouth that opened like a hammerhead shark's. It was far beyond any creature that had ever entered my nightmares, and I was certain it was there to kill me. It never got the chance to, though. I woke from the dream panting and drenched in sweat. The humid air had overpowered the box fan while I slept, bringing the compact bedroom's temperature back up to an insufferable temperature. I got out of bed and stood in front of the fan. The heat wave saw to it that I could only blow warm air. But it was a breeze regardless. I stood there letting that warmness tickle the droplets of sweat beating down my face, and thought about the nightmare I just had. I had hoped this was going to be a one-time situation, but there was a part of me that couldn't shake a peculiar feeling that I had about the hooked creature. I only hoped the feeling was heat stroke finally taking me. I quickly found that it wasn't. Every night, for 3 months after that first night, the hooked creature returned. It never returned to the little boy's room, but chose a new location and person every time. Once it was my brother, another it was my aunt. At one point it even took the form of our family cat, replacing a front paw with that frightening hook. No matter who it overtook, it was always aiming to attack me. Over time I became more worrisome about the ones being replaced in the dreams. When awake, I found myself keeping a watchful eye on my loved ones, even going as far as making sure everyone texted me whenever they ran errands. I went many nights without sleeping, 3 in a row being the most, for fear of the creature finally succeeding in killing me. For some time I survived on coffee, energy drinks, and late-night television. Sleeping during the day didn't fix the problem. It still found me no matter when or where I closed my eyes. After 3 months of pure agony, I was ready to give in and let the creature take me. I figured if it wanted me dead, I should just let it. If it couldn't kill me, I figured the worst it could do was scare me awake for the rest of my life. Something happened, though, and it never had to come to this. 3 months had just officially passed since the first dream. I sat on the porch swing, paperback book in one hand and iced tea in the other. I swayed, allowing the end of summer breeze to wash over me, and hearing the comforting creak of the swing's chains. The afternoon sun was just beginning to make its descension. It was moments like these that I forget I was even having the nightmares. I was home alone, my mother having gone to retrieve my siblings from camp, and my father with a friend at our church just up the street. I was relishing in the quiet of being by myself, a luxury I would find more difficult to come by later in life. As the sun began to dip behind the trees for evening, my father's Chevy rumbled down the street and into the driveway. I didn't look up from my book, recognizing the driver and not wanting to stop reading. I did stop, though, when I heard 2 doors slam instead of just one. When I did, I saw 2 men walking towards the porch gate. One was my father, and one a bald man I didn't recognize. The bald man was introduced to me as Barry, a pastor in training. He was brought to our church on a mission trip and would be leading a sermon that coming Sunday. My father had invited him to dinner as a welcoming offer, which Barry had graciously accepted. Having settled introductions, my father announced he was going to change his shirt and went into the house. Meanwhile, Barry stayed on the porch and talked with me about my book, which I found both comforting and awkward. Eventually the conversation became stale, and neither of us spoke. Then, Barry suddenly spoke up and said the words I'll never be able to get out of my head. "You're having nightmares, aren't you?" The book I held slipped from my fingers and smacked against the porch. My mind screamed to run and keep away from this strange man at all costs, but my legs wouldn't budge. It was like the first dream all over again. I hadn't told anyone about the nightmares. It was something I had been keeping to myself in fear of being thought of as insane. Now here I was, a complete stranger, telling me what was happening. I told Barry everyone has nightmares, tiptoeing around the question. Barry replied that not everyone has nightmares like I do. I asked him what he meant. He shrugged his shoulders and said that some nightmares happen every night for a long time. I had to know if Barry was being serious. I asked him who it was in my dreams. He corrected me by saying I meant to ask what it was, and answering that it was a demon. I had no time to react before I heard the front door open. Just as I did, Barry whispered under his breath that that night will be the last nightmare with the demon. Then he chortled a joke at my father, and the 2 of them headed to the garage to admire the many tools on display, and I was left stunned. That night I did meet the hooked creature in my dreams, though it wasn't itself. It seemed weaker, almost decayed in itself. When I woke the next morning, I wasn't sure how to feel about Barry's comments. Was the creature being weaker a sign that he was correct in saying it would be the last time I would have the dream? I hope so. Later that day, I accompanied my mother to our church. Really, she was only going to get our preparations for Sunday service, and didn't need my help, but I wanted to see Barry. I needed to know what the creature being weaker meant. We entered the fellowship hall and began the prep work. As my mother stacked cups, I was tasked with wiping down the tables. I did so until I made it to the last one. When I reached this, I found what appeared to be a Bible. It was open to Revelations and had what appeared to be a sketch sticking out of the corner of the page. Though I know I shouldn't have, I couldn't resist grabbing the drawing. When I did and saw what was sketched out, I screamed. It was the hooked creature, the demon, in full detail. It appeared to be jumping off the page, rearing its nasty claw at my face. That night I didn't sleep, still thinking about that drawing. And the next day, I asked Barry about it. The only thing he told me is that the demon would not bother me again. When I pressed him further, he told me he took care of it out in the woods, where God could banish it back to hell where it belonged. At first I thought Barry was insane, a religious nut who liked to toy with people's emotions. But since that night after he told me that, the hooked creature has never returned. Almost 6 years has passed, and while I've tried to come up with logical explanations for the entire situation, I just simply can't. What started as a human night ended up being a supernatural experience that changed my summer and changed my life. Okay guys, so I hope you enjoyed that story time. It was an experience that freaked me out as a kid. When I met this man and he told me that he knew about these things, it really freaked me out. And this wasn't the only time he ever did this. He went on to help so many different people in our community, and he just knew things about people, and it was like, in a way, he was like maybe a messenger, I always thought of him as. That he had this knowledge that no one else could have known about. I hadn't told anyone about these dreams. And once he figured it out, and he knew, and then the drawing freaked me out. Like, and I think what scared me the most was being able to see the drawing and realizing that the demon or hooked creature was personified out of the dream world. Like, it was in real life. And when I thought about it later on in life, I was thinking, Freddy Krueger, right? It was like my own personal Freddy. It was terrifying. And it still freaks me out to this day. I don't know what to think about it. I haven't spoken to this man in years. But it's just something that has always really kept me thinking. How did he know? And how did he know about the rest of the people in the community? And is he still continuing to do this type of work today? So, yeah, it was really weird. But thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. If you guys want to see more like this, I have a few other story times. My mother has some cool ones. I can share hers and stuff like that. If you guys want to see stuff like this, let me know in the comments down below. And until next time, remember you're beautiful, you're wonderful, and you are loved. Bye!